Thank you for staying with us. Now let's look at something about what is going on here and now. Something real. Since the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, its origin remains uncertain, but accumulating evidence links the virus to a wild market in Wuhan, China. Let's take a look today at wildlife markets and the spread of coronavirus in Nigeria. Do we have wildlife markets in Nigeria? Well, I don't know. But we have people in the studio who will tell us all about that in just a moment. Joseph Onoja is Technical Director, Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Good morning.
Good morning, madam. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming once again. And we also have Chinedu Mogbo, founder, Green Fingers Wildlife Conservation Initiative.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. So, first of all, do we have wildlife markets in Nigeria?
Absolutely, we do.
Whereabouts are they?
Well, in Lagos.
All over the country?
Yes, all over the country. In fact, in some cities, you have more than 3, you have more than 4.
Legal or illegal?
Well, most of them illegal.
Okay. So, since they are illegal, that would seem to answer the question I'm about to ask you, because my question was going to be, so is government doing enough to regulate activities in those markets?
For now, not much has been done. I must be very plain and very clear. Not much has been done.
Even in these days of coronavirus?
Yes, not much has been done.
And days of Ebola, because they all came from animals?
Yeah, usually what happens is that, when there's a hype, everybody stays away. But the minute after the wave passes, we go back to status quo, the mess we were in. So that is what really happens. If not, this is time for us to take the opportunity to reset.
Yeah.
To reset the way we do things. So it will be an opportunity to ride on this, especially now that there's clear evidence that there's a link. There has been a link always, because over 70 to 80% of the zoonotic infections to humans, that is transmission from animals to humans, they are zoonotic. 80% are zoonotic. So that means there's transfer from animals to humans. But you may not want to blame the animals because they are doing their things. It is when we interfere in the activities. That's what.
Chinedu, why are we tending to eat these things more than we used to?
I think there's this outburst of culture now. It's been there, but now it's coming to the forefront. It's now being done without any form of remorse or without any form of holding back. You have people, even you talking about it, telling people, oh, stop this bushmeat or stop this animal eating. They'll tell you, no, my fathers have been doing it. We had hunters back then, and they're still there today, and they've been doing it since then. Then who are you to come now, today, to tell us not to kill these things? And now the problem becomes where you try to educate Nigerians about it, and there is this large outcry that no, do not stop what has been. It's a Nigerian thing that they will tell you in the bush market. That said, we've been doing it for over 30 years now, and there's been no problem. So what are you trying to tell us about not eating bush meat?
What kinds of animals are we eating now that tend to transfer these viruses to us, which we were not eating before?
Well, right now everything is on the table. I'd say really everything is on the table, because it got to a point where, in fact, I only started learning about some of our wildlife through those tables. I didn't know some animals even existed in Nigeria until I saw them there. I had to I say, what is this? They call it a certain name, but I had to take pictures, check what is this. I found out, that's a pothole. I didn't know a pothole was even found in our bushes.
Pothole?
It's called a pothole, yeah.
What's that?
It's a small monkey-like animal.
Like a bush baby kind of.
Yeah.
And we are eating that.
Yes, we are eating that. Then we have pangolins are also there.
Oh yes, we know about pangolins from him.
Pythons, they're eating pythons, all forms of snakes. Hyrax, even all the primates. You see people they're doing it openly. eating primates, all the forms of deers whatsoever, anything that walketh on 4 foot, basically is meat for Nigeria. Rats, giant pouch rats are also found on the table. And you see the problem is, or another thing is that you see a Nigerian will see a rat on the table and say, what is that? What are you selling? We say, oh, now on a rabbit. They call it, they don't even know the real names of these animals that.
Oh, it's not a rat, it's a rabbit.
It's actually a rat. It's actually a giant pouched rat, but they call it rabbit. You don't see rabbits in the wild. I've hardly seen any rabbit basically in the wild here in Nigeria, but these are rats and they call it rabbit. And these are, you see, the education is not helping them because frankly, our children don't even know the different species of animals we have here in Nigeria. So there's quite a lot really, and that is why this thing is growing. Okay, now, another issue is that they tell you it's better than chicken. It's healthier than chicken. Why are they telling you that? Because they say, oh, chemicals. They've used chemicals in cooking chickens, or in rearing them. Yes. But they know about, there's organic farming. But however, they say no. So this one is fresh from the forest. It eats plants, so we can basically eat them. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Growing up I grew up in Ugep.
Oh, okay.
And I do know that sometimes behind the house, just to play, we called it rabbit. I mean, in ignorance, we called it rabbit. But what you do is, it burrows a hole, so you have to block several exit points just to catch. And then hey, I caught it. Then you let it go, and then go back again to go chase just to catch and all of that. But that was for game, not to eat. So now it's to eat. You say, but. Mr. Noja, this he said, is like an awakening to eat healthy. And a lot of people think that's the best thing to eat. There are some others who think it's traditional to eat some kind of meat at certain times of the year. How do we get to... How is it that then, at that time, they never caught some of these illnesses that are appearing now? Because, eating those things didn't start now.
Yes, actually they didn't. You see, something we need to realize is that the cultures are evolving, and because they are evolving, there are a lot of marriages with different lifestyle and so on. We must not run away from the fact that some of the rural folks, this is their source of protein, and we are not discouraging those ones who are taking them sustainably.
I know someone who will not touch,
yeah.
as in touch, will not touch beef as cattle.
All of those, it must be
chicken, agric, they call it agric chicken.
Yeah.
He will not touch anything or what comes from the deep part of the forest.
Yes. So in those days, there's what we call sustainable hunting. You see, I had this experience when I was in Liberia and I was talking with some hunters, and they now have a slogan, no baby on target. That is, they kill anything they see, whether pregnant, whether young, whether old, anything. But in those days, there were laws even in hunting. There are hunting seasons. There are fishing seasons. All of these were made to regulate those things. So, but now everything has been mumbled up together. And with that mumbling will come certainly, and then we are now going into their space, and they are now being exposed to different things that they were not being exposed to. So all of these things, all of this interplay will now come up with the different things that we have. So we have hybrids of a lot of things. Even with the exposures, the virus that we have, all of these things are interplaying. Things that shouldn't merge before are now coming together. So with all of these things, there will be such pari passu of a lot of things that will now make it a problem for us. And that is what we are seeing.
In parenthesis, when the Ebola thing broke out, we were told it was from bats. So are people still eating bats?
Yes, I'd say so. It hasn't...
We are incorrigible, right?
You see, it's not just about, because it was from bats, it's also for monkeys were also on the table at that time for Ebola. But it's like, it's like a wave. I'd say it's a wave. Oh, this is it. Oh, you react, then we bounce back almost immediately. Frankly, I was told that even during the lockdown, bushmeat was still sold. the meat was still being sold, that it was still being, animals were still being killed, and because people, yes, we looked at all the issues, but you see, people also say that we have to eat, we're hungry. Would I go and raise a chicken? Well, how long will I wait for that one to grow when I can just go and take this off the table? So yes, there's nothing that is still off the table now for those who it favors, basically.
Okay, so how do these markets thrive? Because you said that there are bushmeat markets everywhere. So how do they get their product, the animals they sell?
Hunters. Hunters are, okay, we're talking about now the wildlife markets where they have, where every living thing comes.
Yeah,
Hunters,
because when you talked about in those days, there were regulations.
Yeah.
So you hardly see live animals brought out to the markets to be sold. They are brought out by the hunters, already dead, and sometimes smoked. That's what's brought into. But now you have wildlife markets where it's as if it's a pride to bring out these live animals.
Yes, from what I've seen in my own aspect, I've seen two different scenarios. I've seen the place where, yes, they are brought dead and people come by them. Even those dead ones, based on the traps or however the hunters may have tried to kill them, get them, some of them may have been caught alive. Maybe some of them even with the children, with the young ones, basically, the young ones of the animals also there. And those are sold for food, meat. Then you have the other aspect of the wildlife market where it is come and buy an animal for maybe, traditionally says bring a vulture, a live vulture, or bring a live tortoise or something. You also have that. So, it's happening. It's been happening for years, and people know about these markets. So, okay, so somebody's having a pet. Saw where somebody had a monkey, a Mona monkey as a pet. I said, no, it's not a pet. That belongs basically in the wild. But it's becoming now, they go to these markets, oh, I want that monkey, and they pick it up. So these are the different purposes. For food is there, for personal needs, like the pet trade, basically. People also go for these things. And that's how it's been running.
Now, where are these markets around Lagos?
We have the very notorious one in Akbe. We have another one, you mentioned another one in Mushin. We have one in Lekki Axis as well. So that is those are the three tribal ones. And sometimes they move around with them. Sometimes you find in the season.
We see them in traffic sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes in season they normally traffic sea turtles. So you find them sometimes in front of eco hotels. You find them sometimes around sandfield areas where they have.
Are turtles eaten as well?
Yeah, sometimes they eat them.
You can't keep the sea turtle as a pet.
You see, and that is why we try to create awareness.
My nephew had a tortoise had a tortoise as a pet.
Besides,
and gave it a cape and put a leash on it.
And
because the poor tortoise died because it was being taken for walks.
Oh, no.
Imagine. But Dr. Naja, at the end of the day, are there no regulations? I do know that there are certain laws in Nigeria at the time, and I don't know if they're still there or whether they've been repealed, that talked about certain animals that should not be touched, that should not be killed, that should not be trapped. Just let them run in the wild. Are those laws still in existence? Are they being enforced?
Now, that is the big gap. Enforcement is a major issue.
No, the question was, are the laws still in existence?
Yes, I'll come to that. The laws are still there. The laws, was as recently as the December 31st of 2016, the reviewed one was signed into law by the president. So we have the Endangered Species Act, which is the umbrella law that says there's first schedule and there's a second schedule. Now the first schedule, any animal on that first schedule the language is that it is prohibited, absolutely prohibited to trade, to hunt, or to capture. It's absolutely prohibited. Then there's a second schedule, which will have some animals. Then those ones you handle them by a permit. By a permit, and that permit can only be given by the Federal Minister of Environment.
But Joseph, are you sure that all these hunters are aware of all these things? I'm sure many of them are treat to start with?
Yeah, some of them are not aware. The awareness, I must say, is not very much, but some of them are very much aware. But even within them, they have their own regulations which they themselves are violating. Because there are some animals that you shouldn't. Because if you, yeah, for instance, there was a day that I saw on this screen, the aardvark. I've seen aardvark twice in my lifetime.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. I've seen aardvark twice. One was in Yankari, and the second time was in that and the one in
the
Yankari,
market.
yes, it was already killed. Now the one in Yankari was even, we had a camera trap. It was not a live specimen that I saw because of their lifestyle. They are very nocturnal and they are very secretive. So you could imagine an animal like that, which is very scarce. A hunter should know that in all of his hunting career, maybe that's the first time he's stumbling on that, and yet he will shoot that kind of animal. You should know that these kind of animals are very rare, and they play very important role.
The man is hungry.
Well, that is, if you bring that component into it, it's not an excuse to break the law.
Number one, he doesn't know there is a law like that. Number two, he's hungry. He sees an animal. He kills it and goes to eat it.
I must tell you that even within their regulations, the hunters themselves, those who are professional hunters, because we have even the Hunters Association themselves that we're engaged with, they also complain that they have proliferation of pseudo hunters, fake hunters, quack hunters, who don't live according to the regulations. So even they themselves, they know that right from even their limited knowledge, they know that they are doing things illegally, even within their own sphere. So that's a major problem.
So this thing about awareness, in terms of creating awareness for them to even know which animals. Yes, 2016, the laws will be reviewed. We're going to look at the question of enforcement. What punishment are attached to any of it? For instance, seeing an advert now and you're caught with it. What's the punishment that's supposed to go with that? But that matter of awareness, Chinedu, is there a way to ensure that people are more aware of what animals not to touch, what animals to avoid?
Yes. Yes, there's always a way. Like he mentioned about these hunters. Every group, even these people in the market that sell these animals, the hunters, the traditionalists, they all have bodies that govern them. They all have associations they belong to. And if I could remember, NCF had a training recently of traditionalists where they were told, you see the vultures, leave the vultures alone. There are other plant-based means with which you can still do the same thing and maybe achieve the same result. However, you would wonder how the scope at which, or the extent to which organizations, private organizations like that, even organizations like for us, we try, we go to the market, tell them, do you know that, have you heard of the word endangered before? They say, no, it's not danger, it's not, they don't understand those things. So you see some that don't know blatantly, it's clear they don't know. But then again, you see, in trying to train them, because look at this COVID-19. I still keep using it. I say, if we want the public to know something, we can make them aware of it. And it was a vast, because the government was behind it. They supported the movement. They used every means possible, messaging, to distribute all these things. Why couldn't it? Okay, climate change now is becoming a thing, and see how, although they may not be talking about it so much, but there is means to educate the public.
Okay, just hold your thoughts there. We'll take a moment and when we come back, we'll look at means to educate and enforce. We're back in a moment. Just stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at this matter of endangered animals in Nigeria and how viruses are spread from the animals. Something that wasn't before, but now suddenly it's as if it's everywhere. So we're talking about awareness. You said if government wanted to make anybody aware of anything, they can do it. I mean, they did it with the Ebola virus. They did it with COVID-19, even though some people still say it's a lie. They're lying to us.
They heard it.
They heard it. But how can we use that same means to educate the people about this. For instance, I have something here. 5 endangered animals in Nigeria. Endangered means they're almost extinct.
Yeah.
They are dying out. West African lion. In 1970, said there were about 200,000 of those lions spread across. But now, they said there are just about 34 remaining in the whole territory in Nigeria. 34 of the 200,000. The Cross River gorilla. There's the Cameroonian forest shrew, the white-throated guinean. There's also the red-eared guinea as well. These are endangered animals. How many Nigerians even know of these animals? Maybe we're even eating them without knowing.
And if they bump into them, they're going to kill them.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. The shrew is actually found in most of these traditional markets. Because they focus on, there's certain kind of, I don't know what need these people have for these endangered species that they try to go for those ones that cannot easily be found. So go and find that one. And when you bring that one, then you'll be able, maybe whatever we are wishing for you, or whatever
the gods will answer you.
The scarcer
the better the
efficacy
better
of
it is,
Yeah.
the drug. So you see, I look at it even going into the educational curriculum. Like as a teacher also, I look at these things, and I look at the curriculum, for example, from that GSS 1 that's to all the way to SS3. When you talk about conservation, it only comes up once and that is in SS3 curriculum towards the end of your lesson, and it doesn't really expose you. Okay, then again, if you say it was there in the book, for example, all the students in Lagos, where would they see a white-throated guinea? Where would they see the shrew? Who is conserving these animals to say we're keeping it to educate these children about these things? Let them come and see it. If you see it, the closer you get to it, the more you will appreciate it. Where are zoos? Unilag is a prestigious university. We have veterinarians, we have zoologists, we have wildlife scientists, everybody coming out of those universities. But what are they studying really? These are the things that we this is what we need to do to ensure that we promote that education concerning our wildlife.
Mr. Noja,
Yeah.
enforcement.
Okay.
So you brought up, I think that as early as 2016, the laws were looked at,
Revised.
were amended, were revised. But what's the punishment level? And then how's the enforcement been so far?
All right, so sorry, let me just add quickly to the awareness before I come to the enforcement. And because awareness is something that is very important, because people need to be aware, even though ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but people need to be aware. And as he rightly pointed out, if people are not, if they don't appreciate what we have, certainly will not be aware. The older generations are, because we had some of these things growing up, but kind of throw it off. But the children, we have to also inculcate it in them. And that is why we try to, as NCF, we try to have school conservation clubs. We have children coming to our place, 4 schools before the lockdown, 4 schools every day. Coming in, so that you have connection with nature, so that they will become more
appreciation.
aware. They'll appreciate what they have. And we are going all out to launch a campaign on wildlife, against wildlife trafficking, probably next month, or we want with a wildlife organization. So we'll be able to see what we can do to ensure that people are becoming more aware. Now, after you've done that, then you come to the enforcement part of it. When people are aware of it, then you have legal, and there's no excuse for them to be punished. Now, I'm coming to the law and the agencies involved in that law. And let me mention here that NESRA is actually the enforcement agency involved in that the environmental regulations that we are going to enforce it. And discussing with them, they are doing their bit, but it is not enough at all, I must say, because the laws must bite, and that's the difference between a lawful society and a lawless society. When we have laws that are not being enforced, and even our Endangered Species Act talks about a fine of 1,000 naira
I was just going to get there.
Oh, dear.
A fine of 1,000 naira, handling of endangered species.
Oh, dear.
Schedule, animals in the first or second schedule, or maybe
Maybe that should be 100,000 naira.
Yeah, at least. But even that is not being enforced. Even that is not being enforced. So the scope of enforcement has to be strong. Yeah, we're working with some agencies, seeing how we can build capacity. But that's the government agency, that's Nigeria. But when you talk about other law enforcement agencies, the police, the customs,
Do they even know?
They don't know.
And that is where we are coming in to build to work with them to build capacity in that regards. Because when we had a workshop 2018 in somewhere in Ogun State, and we invited the custom PR, he came, but he told us that when he got the invitation, because we're using vultures as an inroad to talk about illegal wildlife trade, so he told us that he was shocked when he got a letter inviting him for a vulture workshop. But he told us that at the end of the day, he was very enlightened, and even invited us to come to Idiroku, the border, where we'll be able to talk with his men, because these things, illegal things, move together. Drugs, human trafficking, money laundering, all of these things have been shown to move together. So you intercept one, you most likely will intercept the others. So because they follow the same route. So we're trying to see how we can work with these agencies to see how we can have like a task force, so that whenever you confiscate something, probably a National Drug Law Enforcement Agency officer will intercept a vehicle, and there may not be illegal drugs, but there may be illegal wildlife material. There may be illegal, probably human traffickers. So with all of these agencies coming together, we will be able to fight. So that enforcement is a major gap, and we have seen that, and we are working with them to see how we can. But I must point out that the Ministry of Environment, as it is now, is very dynamic, and they have been putting things in place to ensure that, because they've also seen that this is a gap, and they are trying to work at it. The two ministers are wonderful, I must say.
Ebola came and went because we were able to contain it. Do you think that with coronavirus, we are now primed to begin to look out for things like this and do something about it? Are we aware enough to know that we can actually catch something from eating those animals?
Even relating with them, not just eating.
Yes. Ebola came, like I said, people who used to consume bats and monkeys that which were identified.
Turtles.
They paused for some time. Yes, they paused for some time.
These are shots on the wet market in Ekpe.
Yes.
That's a pangolin.
Yes, and that's
a python.
Yes.
Oh.
So this paused for some time. After it had gone from, well, nobody is having it anymore, they went back to it. You would see streets where bushmeat are sold. You see cars parked there, and it's not, bushmeat does not just appeal to just the lower income,
the elites as well.
even the elites, they go for it as well. So it had passed. Now, like I said, COVID-19 came. You would think that we would definitely put a restraint. I said, on the day the lockdown was lifted, I took a trip back to this market to check. Let me see
this
same market here, to check what is happening. Let me see whether the Nigerians really react to this. It was
business as usual.
Business as usual. Pangolins were still, I did a video, I said pangolins were still on the table. Sold. What, the dead ones were there, live ones also were there. And I was like, and the people who too were there, they were not even protecting themselves, they were just basically. So you talk about that, you would think that if a lot of Nigerians will rally behind you and say, yes, guys, we need to stop this. But they are now the ones going after you, like, why will you tell us to stop bushmeat? It's become so, I'd say,
delicacy,
entrenched, in our DNA is that you can. Okay, even the
but since Ebola, many have stopped eating just bushmeat. They want to eat the one that has 4 legs. Yeah. So many of them only will eat antelopes.
Yeah, an antelope still also, anything that comes from the wild, basically still bushmeat. They carry diseases. They carry their own unique flora of bacteria, even parasites. Okay, I was at the table. I saw a species of tick I had never
What's
seen
that?
before.
What's that?
That's a pangolin.
That's a pangolin actually being.
They're going to eat it.
Scaled.
No,
Yeah, being
actually,
descaled.
it was actually being descaled for this. They wanted to use the scales for something. I don't know actually what they were intending to use it for.
That's
And
a
this is
grass
happening. This is happening.
What's this?
That's a
That's
grass
the cane rat. That's grass cutter. Yeah. So you wonder why these people are going on and okay between that time now and now the market is booming. The market is rich. To over 200 kilos of meat coming there. I kind of weighed. There this the bush bucks, big ones slaughtered on the table. Crocodiles, huge snakes. They're still there, and I'm talking. Oh, that's the one where the animals being sold for meat. Then you still have those. The traditionalists are still working.
Yeah.
They need their animals. They need the concoctions they have to make. So it has to be there. You see, all these things will still happen. But I'm looking at a situation where, as a nation, we are looking at building, replenishing our species. Our forests, okay, we say we have forests, but the forests are also reducing in size. The animals cannot even produce as much as. But when we begin to think about, okay, how can we replenish this? How can we now begin to, and that's why we build sanctuaries, we build reserves where these animals can be allowed to thrive, reproduce in numbers. They can be introduced into other areas of the environment, ensuring the ecosystem is balanced, and that is what we need. And luckily, we've been able to at least successfully breed some of them. But the problem now we're having is, where do we release them? Who do we give them to?
You release them into the world, they get killed.
They get them.
Yeah.
Leather turtles. There was a soft shell turtle that we rescued recently from the market, because apart from land, the water bodies is also unaccounted for, because you would be surprised the endangered species we have in our water bodies. And Ekpe is just that area where the water basically, so you have rays, you have soft shell turtles, which are also vulnerable.
Are rays eaten as well?
They are being eaten, yes. So they are being caught. So we're able to, in rescuing them, and you say, like, where do we put them? Where do we take this back now to release it? Where, if I take it back to, because the water bodies are still going to lead back to the same places.
Yeah.
So these are the challenges. Government needs to even support other people that will build these reserves and ensure the replenishing of these species, the multiplication of them. Then we can now begin to understand sustainable.
No longer we don't have zoos anymore.
No.
Yeah. Well, we got to go now, so we need to take your last word on this.
So we cannot close without really emphasizing the importance of these animals to us, because at the end of the day, all these animals are put in place by nature to protect humans. For instance, a pangolin that feeds on, let's say, 70 million ants and termites in a year. You can imagine what will happen if that amount of termites is unleashed on the human population in a particular area, saving about 31 football size of forests. So you can imagine what will happen. So they are doing a lot of work for, and at
That's
the end
one
of the day,
pangolin.
there's one pangolin
Is saving 31 football size of forest.
So you can imagine what will happen. So all of these things are put in place for us, and we as humans are the least equipped. I continue to say in every forum I have the opportunity, but the least equipped to live on Earth. So if we are not careful, we will be undoing ourselves with all of the advancement that we think that you can imagine what coronavirus did. With all our advancement, brought the world to a standstill. That is just a virus, which we can run away from into our homes. There are some that we may not be able to run away from. And that is the reality that is facing us.
Dr. Joseph Onoja, Technical Director, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and Mr. Chinedu Mubo, Founder, Green Fingers Wildlife Conservation Initiative. Thank you very much for coming to talk about this with us this morning.
Pleasure.
Beware of what you eat. Not everything walking should be eaten by human beings. Some are in the environment to protect human beings. Stay safe. We'll be right back with another interesting conversation.